Did you know the historic Butterfield Overland Mail Stagecoach passed through San Diego County 150 years ago? We'll show you a rare reenactment along the historic trail only seen on San Diego's historic places. The Vallecito Stagecoach stop was one of the larger stations in California. It was like an oasis after a long, treacherous journey across the plains and deserts. You'll get a rare glimpse inside the historic sod structure. The ranch house at Warner's near Julian is one of the last original historic stations, but it is on the most endangered list and it could be lost. We'll tell you how you can help save it. This old adobe station was built specifically for the Butterfield Overland Stage Company. We'll explain why the service only lasted a brief time. Those stories are coming up next on San Diego's Historic Places. Hello and welcome to San Diego's Historic Places, where you learn about the county's history. I'm Elsa Sevilla. Thanks for joining us. On this episode, you'll see how the Butterfield Overland Mail stations and route left a huge impact on San Diego that's still visible today. And for the first time in half a century, we'll show you a rare reenactment on the actual trail, and we came along for the ride. If you want to experience some of the early days in San Diego County, the historic Butterfield Overland Mail Stagecoach route is a good example of the old western days. Most of the route is in the Anza Borrego Desert, about 2 hours east from San Diego. 150 years later, the trail is still visible from the S2 highway. Today, we are reenacting the historic route with the help of a Wells Fargo Concord stagecoach and crew. Wells Fargo played a key role in financing the route with John Butterfield starting in 1857. Today, stagecoach driver George Lane leads the team. George, as a driver, can you tell me how exciting is this to be on the actual route of the Butterfield stagecoach?
Well, it's kind of exciting to know, reliving a little history, and even though it's been, a lot of years, and we're, people went before you and some of the, the hardships, and luckily, we unload our coach in the truck, but you can imagine the early day, travelers and pioneers.
During our reenactment, Bruce Coons of Soho helps guide us through the actual historic trail at Vallecitos. You'll see more of the station a bit later. Meantime, we know the long and dangerous trip through the desert, plains, and mountains was typically made on mud wagons similar to these. The Concord stagecoach would be used in less rugged terrain. The conquest of California and the gold rush were indirectly responsible for the birth and success of the Butterfield stagecoach route. John Butterfield would step up to the challenge and win the government contract to start the year-round mail service in the West. Butterfield would have the backing from a handful of partners, including Henry Wells and William Fargo.
The government put out the contract for someone who would be willing to undertake this service, and John Butterfield and his partners, who, by the way, eventually included Mr. Wells and Mr. Fargo, came in and said, we can do this. And it meant you had to hire the drivers, buy the livestock, get the coaches, set up the stations, either rent a station as you did at Vallecito and Warner's Ranch, or build a station as you did at Oak Grove. If there was nothing there, you had to build it.
Phil Burgandy is a Southern California historian who knows many of the details about the Butterfield stagecoach route. The Butterfield mail service and transportation was only in operation for a brief time, from 1858 to 1861. Casey Gill also knows specific details about this time in history.
After the gold rush, they had the foresight to recognize this opportunity that was opening up in the West with all these, miners and people coming out to California. And so they saw this opportunity to come out here and provide services for people. And that's what they did. They would do pretty much anything, that you needed done in the way of expressing or banking, whether it was gold deposits, exchanging money for gold. But I think the express business was probably the biggest part of it.
This map shows the actual trail departing from St. Louis, Missouri, or Memphis, Tennessee, traveling to Fort Smith, Arkansas, Texas, then continuing through Indian Territory, New Mexico, and Arizona, briefly passing through San Diego, and finally arriving in San Francisco. We trace the trail on foot to some of the more important locations along the route. You do get a sense of how rough it could have been, and even just driving here, it was very bumpy, and I can just imagine what it would have been like on a wagon.
With an open coach, and you have the teams in front, kicking up dust, and you're basically eating dirt
through the whole way, yeah. This stop would be Palm Spring, the third station coming into California. Yes, San Diego has its own Palm Spring. Just like in Western movies, there is a small spring with 2 palm trees, a welcoming sight for weary travelers.
The spring still flows today, and it's a beautiful little spring. It's what's feeding the palm trees there. The station's long gone. In fact, we've never actually found the site of the station building itself. There's been some archaeological investigations and studies, but so far they haven't actually found the station. But we know it's within a few feet of the spring. That's the only, all the descriptions talk about it.
Another important location on the trail would be Campbell Grade. You can still see the trail from the S2 highway. What a breathtaking view.
This one was really a tough grade, and you can see the original trail. It's one of the best preserved portions of the trail that are easy for the public to see, and it gives you a real good idea what the character of the trail was like. And then it came around this hill and then did many switchbacks and up over to the top here. And it must have been something else to be.
The Box Canyon area is also beautiful, but it was one of the more challenging spots along the route. This is the type of danger travelers encountered throughout the trail.
We're walking on the actual Butterfield stagecoach route right now. A few little washouts here, and it was in better condition then, of course, but this is the trail itself. And this is, what became the Immigrant Trail as well. It's part that bypassed the Box Canyon, as you can see why.
One of the next stops is at Warner's Ranch in the Valle de San Jose, about 20 minutes north from Julian. It would continue north to San Francisco or Sacramento. Today's reenactment is very special and rare. The Wells Fargo crew traveled more than 2 hours from Lancaster to meet us at Campbell Grade and Vallecitos. When was the last time there was a reenactment like this? This is a small reenactment, but it's exciting.
It's very exciting, yeah, especially for us. We've never had this opportunity to bring a stagecoach out to the actual trail out here in San Diego. I can't be for sure, but as far as I know, the last time there may have been a reenactment would have been in 1958. So it's at least over 50 years. And